tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnanam vijnana sahitam yat natva mokshaye asubhan. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnana vijnana sahitam yad natva mokshaye asubhan. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnana vijnana sahitam yad natva mokshaye asubhan. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnana vijnana sahitam yad natva mokshaye asubhan. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnana vijnana sahitam yad natva mokshaye asubhan.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mokshaye subhata.
idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anusuvave jnana vijnana sahitam yad natva mokshaye. Word for word translation. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, idam, this, to, but, te, unto you, guyatamam, the most confidential, pravakshami, I am speaking, anusuyave, to the non-envious, jnanam, knowledge, vijnana, realized knowledge, sahitam, with, yet, which, natva, knowing, mokshaya, you will be released, asubha, from this miserable material existence. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of God had said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Please repeat after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you should be relieved of the miseries of material existence." Purpose. As the devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. The hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personal Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very important, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are discussed in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed, pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamatmaya Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now this first verse has specific significance. The words, idam jnanam, this knowledge, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand this science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now in this chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word Anusuvave in this verse is also very significant. Generally the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Om Ajnanati Vilandasya Jnana Jnana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagadpate Govesha Bhutta Anta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gauraki Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansya Kalpralupyasya Kripa Sindhya Vacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, in the last chapter, chapter 8, Arjuna had asked Lord Krishna 8 questions, of which the last question was how to know you at the point of death. How to know you at the point of death. Rayane Kale. Detailed explanation was given by Krishna throughout the chapter. Right from sloka number 5, I think 5 to number 28, detailed explanation was given as to what happens and what. So, whether at the time of quitting, there are bodies who are people who are bhaktas, who are yogis, who are karmis, and what their different destinations are. So, different people have different destinations. That was explained by the one in that chapter. Whether they quit accidentally or is it by arrangement. So that also determines their destination. Whether they quit in light or in darkness, again that determines their destination. So all these factors were highlighted in chapter 8. So now this connection with this sloka is that the final instruction given to Arjuna in sloka 8.27 is, although the devotees know these two paths, the two paths meaning the one in light and one in darkness, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always in devotion. So the devotees don't have to worry about what time they quit their bodies. Whether it is light, whether it is darkness, whether they have basically done the right things during their lives. As long as they are devotees, they will be given a chance to go back to Godhead. So it is other people who have to worry. So devotees are not disturbed because they know their passage to the Supreme Lord is guaranteed by devotional service. So the whole emphasis so far has been on devotional service. So now in this chapter, Krishna explains how to become a pure devotee. Right? Ananya Bhakta. That is what the knowledge is all about. So, as we have various comparatives, we have fatter, fattest, thin, thinner, thinnest, various, so there is different stages of information of the knowledge which has been given by Bhagavan. So, there are three levels of knowledge. There are three levels of knowledge. The level 1 was called confidential knowledge. Right? It was stated in chapter 2 and chapter 3. The difference between body and soul. Right? That was stated. Right? There are a lot of people who don't even know that there is a body and then the soul is different. What happens to soul? What is that knowledge has all been highlighted in chapter 2 and 3. So that is a confidential knowledge, level 1 type of knowledge. Then it explained the material and the spiritual aspects of a person. In 2.13 it says, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So this is Bhagavan is explaining very simply that the body perishes but the soul continues on its journey. It will take on different bodies as one is quit, the other one is already ready for it. Simply to know this is not enough. It is only the beginning of spiritual realization. So, this is like the nursery type of education, the first part of education, that you are not this body, you are a soul. That knowledge is given in first level. Then in level 2, more confidential knowledge comes, which is a higher information, which is shared by Bhagavan. Stated in chapters 7 to 8, we have just completed number 8 as well. The knowledge of the Absolute and how to attain Supreme. Knowledge of Bhakti. This knowledge is basically to whet the appetite. This knowledge has been given, it is to make you attracted to do Bhakti. It is to give you an understanding how great Bhagavan is, what we should be thinking about, what is to be done. So in 6.47 it says, why this is important? Because it says, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me. In yoga, it is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Bhagavan likes devotees, likes bhaktas. So now we come to level 3. Here Bhagavan says, now I'm going to impart the most confidential knowledge. So level 1, just explaining the body and the soul. Now in the second level, to explain that now do more bhakti, the process of bhakti is given. And now in the third level, most confidential knowledge. Now here it talks about realization. You may have the knowledge, but what good is that knowledge if it is not applied? That is the realization part of it. So, from knowledge, you have to proceed little higher. So, knowing which, now the reasons why you should be doing this, knowing which you will be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So, that is why we are doing it. And Bhagavan has mentioned that. To relieve the miseries of material existence. And what are those miseries of material existence? Repeated birth and death. Repeated birth and death. Constant process. So there is a key out of this. And the key is bhakti. So the knowledge has been imparted in this chapter. It is the king of all confidential knowledge. It culminates in devotional service. So the idea is you have to make a progression from slowly to the higher levels. This knowledge is stated for all. It is like an open secret. Bhagavan is mentioning. It is here. I'm telling you this is what it is. So then why does it say it is confidential? It is stated that it is confidential because these are transcendental matters. They are not understood by an ordinary person. It is only for people who are in bhakti who will understand these transcendental matters. So, though it has been stated quite openly, it is still considered confidential. In fact, the most confidential matters are in this chapter.
Only person can realize who is not envious.
And needs to become a devotee first can be understood by a devotee only. Okay. In 7.25, in relation to this sloka, it says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency. And therefore, they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. So, Bhagavan is saying, I reserve the right to disclose who I should disclose it to. So, I will not disclose it to the foolish and unintelligent. So, here, even if you look at the example which has been given is when Krishna went as a peace broker. A lot of people could not understand that he is God. Though he showed his Virat Swarup, people still did not treat him as God. So he is not visible to unintelligent, foolish people. So what are the prerequisites for this knowledge? What do you need to have in order to gain this knowledge? Right? The first is being non-envious. When you are non-envious, when you have that understanding that someone is telling you, and if you challenge or you are envious of that person, you will not be able to grasp that knowledge. You will not be able to understand. Your minds will be always be thinking of trying to bring him down. But one is at a different level. You are at a different level. You can never be there. And an envious person always wants to lord over them, which is not going to be possible. And second, the requisite is there should be faith. There should be Shraddha. It says in this thing that Shraddha and non-envious nature makes the person take in the knowledge. This knowledge has been given. So these qualities will convert knowledge, which has already been given to you earlier, into realization. Now the processes which has been described is what we have been reading all throughout. There are 9 forms of bhakti, 9 limbs of bhakti. Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. So, hearing has been number 1 quality, and even in this too, Prabhupada mentions in the first line of the purport. As a devotee, he hears more and more about the Supreme Lord. That association, that getting together with like-minded people will give you the chance to improve your bhakti. Be more connected, be more understanding to the requirements of the Lord. So now we look at the last part. That when I talked about the first level of bhakti, it says in 2.29, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So there are people who are even before the first level, they have no idea as to what it is. So Bhagavad Gita knowledge is very, very important for everyone, and this is our key out of this material miseries. Krishna cannot be understood by material senses. It has to have a process by where it is transformed into transcendental level. So this again, I'm just going to end here basically, that the Bhagavad Gita has been divided into 18 chapters, and the first 6 chapters are for the Karma Yoga, the middle 6 for the Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6 for the Jnana Yoga. So the most confidential matters have been kept in the middle. The first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters, right in the middle is the Bhakti chapters. And out of those 6 chapters, right in the middle of that, 9 and 10 are even more confidential. So in chapter 9, Bhagavan is imparting this knowledge. I think that's about it. Hare Krishna. Hare Granth Raj Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.